Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Ruggiero, as I am every week here on the Tour Coach podcast. If you've been listening for a while or you've recently started listening, you probably know that, or if you're new, this is really for you, but these are the stories and the conversations and the chats with the people that I meet in my journey in golf, coaching, teaching, playing golf. These are the fitness instructors, the mental coaches, the performance coaches, the other teachers, the players, and the people that I run into day to day teaching and coaching that I think shed interesting perspectives, have great views and information that can help all of you that love the game of golf play better, coach better, teach better, practice better. It's all in an effort to give you the best information. So hopefully you like these conversations here on the Tour Coach. We appreciate all of you listening and watching. And more importantly, or equally as important, we appreciate our sponsors, Mitch McConnell and Buick GMC, Blaine Stokely, Stokely's Midtown Garden Center, Taylor Martino and Rowan. And none of this would be possible without the folks at Shrixon Golf and Vineyard Vines and Bushnell. They've been with us forever. We're going to be with you, helping you play the game of golf better. Enjoy the Tour Coach podcast. Go find us on YouTube, DewsweeperTV. Follow us, like us, comment. All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach, good friend of mine, was the longtime instruction editor, 25 years at Golf Digest, Matt Rudy. Matt, kind of moving on to some other stuff. I know we're going to be having you hang out, but welcome, and appreciate you sitting in and all the support over the years. We've had some good times.
We have. It's always good to talk to you. And when you say 25 years, it makes me feel old.
Trust me. I know that feeling. You start getting older and you start looking at stuff in different ways. But one of the things is we talked over the last several weeks and different things, like, it occurred to me, like the Randy Smith article that you did recently about Scotty Scheffler. I said to multiple people, I've given it to multiple juniors and parents, yep. Right? And I think that was one of the best pieces written that I can remember. But I started thinking back of, all of the great teachers, all of the great shoots you've been on. There's got to be some, I just wanted to pick your brain for a few on some of the great stories and some of the great instruction pieces that you've been to and that you remember. And, it's interesting as this podcast has kind of morphed over the last several years. It's turned into kind of like 50-50 teachers and players. Right. It's interesting. We get a lot of people that want to play better, but we also get a lot of people that want to coach and teach better listening to it. So I just thought let's talk about what are some of your most memorable teachers you've worked with, shoots you've worked on, and what are some stories we can take from them?
It's good that you started with the Randy Smith one, because Randy, I started at Golf Digest in 1999, and he was a Golf Digest staff teaching professional even before I got there. And when I started, he was one of the first people I was, you get assigned people on the staff, Hank Haney, Chuck Cook, Randy Smith. I was kind of the Dallas wing of coaches at the time. And Randy was the first coach I did a big shoot with, and it must have been early 2000 that I did that. So he and I have been doing stories together in Golf Digest for 25 years. And it's always been amazing to visit him because of the mechanics of the way the shoots used to work. When we needed to use, and I really am going to date myself and sound old now, but when we started doing these shoots, we used film cameras, and the technology demanded full bright sun so that the camera could stop the club head in pictures. So instead of using the technology that we have now and being able to fit a shoot in a 20 or 30 minute window, you had to give a day or two in your schedule of adjustment because you needed to have full sun. So that was great for me as a younger person doing this, because most of what that entailed was going to Royal Oaks and sitting on the lesson tee and watching Randy give lessons from anyone from the 15 handicap at the club to, I mean, 6-year-old, 7-year-old Scotty Scheffler was bouncing around and, behind the cameras at our shoots, just hanging out this entire time, and watching him teach juniors, watching him teach Harrison Frazier, watching him teach Justin Leonard, all these great players. And to see, and this is another thing that I really admire about being able to spend time with you through the years is the interaction. When you see the bedside manner of a great coach working with these different kinds of players, and you see what threads of the personality are the same, and what elements of the coaching are the same, and what elements of the coaching are different based on who you run into. And I mean, there were so many great shoots with Randy and so many cool stories. One I can really remember is untangling your swing. We did he had those crazy Nike drivers, the square Nike driver, and we got this idea that we should rope him up, basically put a bunch of ropes around him, and to reinforce the idea that when the club is out of position, essentially you're spending time and energy untangling it, getting it to where it needs to go. That's why your swing is so much slower than Scotty Scheffler's is, because you're spending time and energy to get it back into a position where he can actually push the accelerator. And Randy's always been so good at the imagery and the feeling behind what you're supposed to do, and it's always very approachable. And we had a lot of great shoots, a lot of great meals, a lot of great time talking about the psychology of coaching. And there's a reason why he has so many of these long-term relationships with players, and he's developed so many great players for so many years, because his personality. I mean, he's one of the most magnetic people you can be around. Yes. In golf. He's just the nicest guy. He knows so much, and every you can't find somebody in this business that doesn't respect him or appreciate what he's done with these players. And what I love the most is how open he is to new information. If there's better information, if there's another way for a player to get better, if there's a piece of technology that even he's not versed in, he wants to link with people and find the information that will help his player get better. There's not kind of a protectiveness or I'm not sure the right word to use, but in a lot of ways he's like the ultimate family doctor who just wants the patient to feel better. And that's such a big deal in our business too, because all this talk about money and all this talk about the pressure that coaches are under, that's all real. I'm not diminishing that at all, but to see somebody from the old school who says, I want my player to get better, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, even outside of myself, to make that happen. I learned a lot of things. I laughed a lot. Just the respect that you develop for the way coaches need to be to interact successfully with elite players. I mean, I think you and I have talked about this on your show many times. I think that's the most underrated skill. Everybody thinks that, if they've got the technical answers, they just pull a lever and the player plays better. The psychology and the bedside manner and the ability to interact with, what can be, I mean, this might be an understatement, but players can be high strung. They can be difficult to deal with. They can have egos. They can be narcissists. They can be, there's a reason they're so good. They focus on things in a different way than we do. And it's not just an ability that comes off the shelf to say, how do I deal with this high-strung guy who might have other things going on in his life, or she might have other issues that she's dealing with. There might be physical issues to deal with. There's, the pressures of playing for a living. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I don't think people understand the responsibility of, messing with somebody's mechanics when that's their livelihood. It's all fun and games to post something online and say, why doesn't he just do X, Y, Z with the swing? Or why doesn't she do, why is she doing this? But when the rubber meets the road and you actually have the responsibility of turning the knobs to help someone do something better, it's a big deal. And I haven't met anyone in this business who does it, with so much grace and so much, I mean, just being around Randy's a pleasure for sure. And I mean, I was trying to think of how many shoots. I mean, we had to have done upwards of 50 photo and video shoots in 25 years, and it really makes me happy that my last piece as the senior writer at Golf Digest was this big Scotty Scheffler. It was, it's Randy's first person account of how he helped Scotty Scheffler build what Scotty Scheffler is today, and I got to see all of that. And when I think about that, and I think about working with doing Hank Haney stuff when Hank was teaching Tiger Woods, to see that firsthand. I mean, how do you replicate being able to walk with Hank inside the ropes at Carnoustie at the British Open, and watch Tiger Woods playing in an Open Championship, and hearing about the stuff that they're working on, and and developing the trust with the coach where you could hear the behind the scenes stuff that's happening, and be able to come up with a plan about how to help average people learn about that. I mean, I got to do some things that I don't even know if it's going to be possible for people to do them now, because the walls are much higher.
Oh, for sure.
There's so much more attention. Players are much more guarded, and understandably so, because of the way social media is. I just don't think there's the same access or availability now. And I'm sure it wasn't the same when I did it as it was, for example, when Dan Jenkins was walking next to Ben Hogan inside the ropes at the US Open in 1958. So I got to see a lot of incredible things, and really watch great players and great coaches work without the pressure of time. Just to be able to sit and spend a day with Randy and with Scotty, and Randy going back to Justin Leonard or Hank and Tiger. A lot of these coaches, doing these things with players, and just seeing the meticulousness, Max Homa and Mark Blackburn, just spending time with them and watching them do what they do. It's that's been a fascinating part of this job, and it's been a springboard. I've been doing books and projects with peak performance coaches outside of golf, because I think they recognize that seeing under the hood of those relationships is really the same as seeing under the hood in relationships in business. Navy SEALs doing leadership books, and different people in all parts of the business world, I think, look to golfers and golf coaches. It's almost that's a metaphor for what people are trying to do in their business lives too. So I think that's really been a productive part of my experience over those 25 years.
One of the things that I think's great about Randy and the stuff you guys did was, I think it's a real it's not as easy as people think to take a story with a tour player and craft it into something. You work with a tour player that can help everyday golfers.
For sure.
And I think also one of the great things about Randy, and I've strived to do this in my career, is he still teaches regular golfers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sure as he's gotten older, it's maybe not as much as it used to be day to day and day out, but like, he's still accessible to somebody that wants to get better. And I think that's one thing when you look at great teachers, and like, I've been fortunate to go out and watch Butch teach a school, regular golfers, like the ability to communicate with the best in the world, and then the ability to turn around and teach somebody that's trying to break 80 or 85 for the first time. I think that's a special gift and a special talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is. It's a special gift to be able to turn around and do it, and it's also a special gift to understand the ways that those things are similar and the way they're different. And I mean, there's a wide spectrum of stories that come to mind, but this is not to pick on. I don't want to get 6 million emails from Ben Doyle lovers, but one of the pieces I did years ago was to travel around and meet with coaches that were method teachers, gravity golf, and I went and spent a day watching Ben Doyle give lessons in California. And it was fascinating. He was a fascinating guy. And I watched him give the identical lesson for 2 days. He gave the identical lesson to every single person who came to see him, from a elderly woman to an athletic college, young, 20-year-old guy to a 15, it was the same lesson. And this, I'm not coming from a place of criticism. I'm not saying he's doing the wrong thing, but that dedication to the precision and the belief of how the golf swing should be taught, and his commitment to what he felt was, were the physics involved in the golf swing. That was really fascinating for me to watch. And then to watch other coaches who are, and I mean this in the best way, who are chameleons, who can take the energy that's coming from the person. It could be someone who's hurting physically. It could be somebody who's combative and thinks they know lots of what's going on, and they, you've seen it, right? It's almost like a boxing match where the coach is bobbing and sort of taking the energy that's coming from the player and redirecting it in a positive way, or when you watch it, and you've experienced this, I know, when you see a tour player who's in a crisis, right? They come off the course. I'll never forget Hank Haney telling me the story of Mark O'Meara at the Masters. The year O'Meara won the Masters, he came off the course after the first round. I think he shot 76, and he says, I have the full-blown yips, putting yips. I have to withdraw. I can't, what am I supposed to do? And the triage that has to happen on a late Thursday afternoon at Augusta National to fix a guy. It's not even fixing the mechanics. It's getting the person in a headspace where they can go play again, and the guy wins the tournament. And to hear about that kind of stuff, and to learn what a high wire act that is in the professional game, and then to equate it to what average players go through, and how important the game is to average people, and how much enjoyment they get out of it, and the best coaches, they take so much responsibility for wanting the average players at their club, or the ones who come to see them at their studio, to love the game and to enjoy playing it. It's not just a way to rack up a 6 lesson pack and make some money. It's you're holding this person's enjoyment in your hands, and you're giving them the ability to enjoy the game more quickly. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the coaches that work so hard at that every day. And there's so many different cool ways to do it. There's ways to do it with lots of technology. There's ways to do it with no technology. There's, when you watch I call it retail golf instruction. When you watch a great retail golf instructor, where you plop somebody down in front of them and they know what to do, it's really fun to watch, for sure.
25 years obviously is a long time, not making you feel old. But I said this, some of this around some of your nice conversations recently, but the landscape of teachers, the landscape of what we do and how we do it on a lot of levels has changed over 25 years.
Sure.
What are some of the biggest changes you've seen or biggest changes and influences on how teachers do things over those 25 years? Obviously, technology is a huge part,
Sure.
But I look back on my mentoring, and you and I have talked about, obviously coming up under Hank Johnson, who was a Golf Digest guy. Some of the things that are part of what we do now to teach, the producing content and put stuff out there, he'd be rolling over in his grave if he thought those guys just didn't think that was part of the deal, right?
Yeah,
and that's another cool thing, though, I think about guys like Randy, his ability to still stay relevant and to do these things. And Butch is on Instagram, and the ability to do some of that stuff for that generation. What are some of the things that you've seen that have really changed the way we do stuff and the way people learn over the last 25 years?
Well, I think I'll start with, I think one of the big positives is that access to mentorship and best practices, or whatever you want to call it, is so much more democratic now than it used to be. It used to be that you had to find your way to a golf hub or luck out and be somewhere regionally where there was a coach that took an interest in you and gave you that direct mentorship to have a shot to kind of work your way, through all the weeds to get to be a good coach. And maybe you were a coach at a club where there was an instructor, and that instructor had a real great bedside manner, but sort of a loose grasp on how to actually fix swings. You had to fight the whole beginning of your career to take the good stuff that you saw and find some of the technical information that could actually help people hit better shots. And it was kind of the luck of the draw if the people you were around in that area had either one of those skill sets. Now, if you want to take Mike Jacobs is doing monthly Zoom classes on some of the most high-tech stuff you can think of, and how the swing, the club moves and how the body moves. Anybody who wants to sit in for an hour and see that can do that. You can be in Sweden, you can be in Japan, you can be in Spain, you can be in Louisiana, wherever you want to be, you can see that. If you follow certain coaches on Instagram, Randy's another great example. If you're an aspiring coach and you approach it the right way and say, I want to come watch you give some lessons, you can go do that. You can watch someone give lessons. You can see some great coaches on Instagram helping tour players, or on TikTok. You can actually use social media to get some best practices, watching great coaches all over the world. So I think you have a better shot now of having this, floor of this, this baseline of information. Maybe it's fitness stuff. I mean, just when you think about, guys like Colby, that, people that you work with, the ability to work with great fitness professionals and help people with their bodies at the same time as you're helping them with their swing. That's information that 20 years ago was, not only was it foreign, I think the perception in golf was that might even hurt you.
Right.
Lifting weights, doing something with your body was not necessary to playing well. Now and I know you do this in your own business. You've got men and women, you've transformed their lives, not just their golf swing, but their lives, because you've helped them, connect what they're doing with their body with what their golf swing, and they come out feeling better, looking better, moving better. I mean, that's something that improves your life. I'm 51. I mean, just to be able to move around better in my 50s, never mind walking around on the golf course, just being able to do physically is a big deal. So I think the ability to plug into all these different sports psychology experts and very specific short game experts and putting and being able to see around the world in a different way than you could 20 years ago, it gives anybody a shot to do this. And I think that's a wonderful development. The flip side of that is a negative, which is there's a fire hose of information out there. Mm-hmm. There's a fire hose of social media accounts. There's a fire hose of YouTube videos. There's a fire hose of content coming from places like Golf Digest and Golf Magazine. So having a filter, having some kind of curation for what is out there. And I was doing a piece with Mark Blackburn a couple months ago, and he was talking about being a pharmacy. You go to a pharmacy and there's a million drugs in the pharmacy that are great. And they're all amazing inventions that really are wonderful for very specific problems. But if you just start chucking pills down, you're going to get sick or you're going to die. And so I think the issue for not just for coaches, but for coaches who deal with players, your players are coming to you and they've been hit with this fire hose of stuff. What should I do with the club on the, this is what the telestrator said the player did on the broadcast. Oh, I watched Bryson do a video on how to hit it farther, and I'm going to try to do this. All the things that are inputs for a player or are inputs for a coach. I think the job of sorting through that is a much more sophisticated job than many people think. And now there's you have so much information, which is great. There has to be an organizing principle around it. And you need a good coach who can tell you, okay, well, this is great stuff. It's not great for you to be trying to, super pronate your wrist or, supinate, or, this is a good move. It's not a good move for you here, or, maybe we need to be in the gym for another 3 months before you can really do that. Instead someone's just applying all the bandages right from the beginning, and it's not working. So I think that the job of a good coach is not only working with the player but it's really understanding the stuff that's coming in to the player's head. I mean, you know better than anyone the amount of stuff that tour players get from Instagram or from TikTok or from social media. They're surfing around looking for stuff, and they show up at the range on a Tuesday at a tour event trying shit that they saw on social media, and that is amazing to think about. And I don't think that's something Jack Grout was dealing with Jack Nicklaus in 1968. I mean, it just isn't. So, I mean, that's for sure new. And I think there are coaches who understand this dynamic, and they do a great job presenting information. I mean, they're technically superior. They do a great job presenting the information, and they do a great job curating the information. I think you do that for your students. Mark Blackburn does that for his students. Chris Como is terrific at that. Watching what my friend Mike Jacobs is doing with Patrick Harrington. Nobody is a bigger consumer of information than Patrick Harrington.
Correct, 100%.
And to watch Mike play goalie with Patrick Harrington is fascinating. And I think those are all skills that coaches have had to develop in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, and again, and it's, you talk about it like in a tour player sense, but like it's even worse with the 15 handicapper that doesn't practice very much, but they love golf, so they're on their phone looking at Instagram and looking on YouTube, and and that's why I think we've talked like it's important to put good content out from my perspective that is in depth, not in depth as in it's complicated, but that where you help explain to people what this is for and how it can help, right? And I mean, I think that's a big part of where we're going with our business. It's because more people have access to us, and along the mentoring lines. I mean, we have that mentoring page on Instagram where you've spoke to our teachers multiple times, right? And it's a free service, and a lot of the questions we get from them is exactly what you talked about. It's like they've got all of this information, but not really sure how to organize it down to what they believe and what they think. And it's helping them and students take all this information that's out there and organize it to what you need.
I think a couple of my favorite anecdotes around that. Well, I mean, not to beat on the Randy Smith drum too much, but that guy.
It's a good one.
If anything, Randy Smith is underrated. He coaches the #1 player in the world, and he's underrated as a coach.
Correct.
I'll never forget sitting there with Randy. It was the day before we were going to do a big Scotty Scheffler cover shoot, and we were talking about technology, and he had just given a lesson to a college. A female college player from one of the schools in Dallas, and he had the TrackMan running during the lesson, and in video, Randy is not a notorious technology guy. I mean, he barely uses video. He barely, historically speaking, he doesn't use a lot of technology, and he had all those things running, and we were talking about it, and he said. And I had never heard someone phrase it this way, and it made a tremendous amount of sense. What he said is, he said, it doesn't matter if I think TrackMan is useful or not useful. I mean, obviously data is good, and the more information I have, the better. But it doesn't matter what I think about TrackMan or what I think about video or what I think about, 3D motion capture or really any technology. If I'm teaching competitive junior players and they have their own TrackMan that they use now, and they live life on a screen, looking at a phone, interacting with people on a screen, and they show up to take a lesson from me, and I don't have any kind of, I'm not conversant at all in any of the things that they talk about or any of the data, or and I just don't participate in any of that. How am I serving that student if I can't relate to what they say to me about their TrackMan data, or I don't understand what they're doing with the technology? He saw it as part of it, or he sees it as part of his responsibility to understand and be a part of all of that, because he wants to reach those students where they are. And to me, for
That's
a guy
brilliant.
who's been doing it 50 years to want to still participate that way is amazing. And then, Debbie Doniger is a great friend of mine, a great teacher who
Yeah.
splits her time between Westchester and in Florida. She makes it a point every year to go around and take lessons and watch coaches teach. And she goes out of her way to go find teachers that she may or may not agree with philosophically, whatever that means. They might teach a different way, they might teach a different style, but she goes out of her way to see coaches that do things that are contrary to what she coaches, because understanding what's out there, understanding what some of the influences are, and this is not Debbie's example, but I just wanted to call her out because I respect that a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
To go do that. And this is not to call out Golf Tech, because Nick Clearwater is a great buddy of mine, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for what they do. But I think if you were a coach and you don't go to a Golf Tech and take some lessons from a Golf Tech location and understand what they're doing, they're having a tremendous amount of success helping players play better every single day. So if you're a coach and you don't understand what they're doing for your own purposes as a coach, or to be able to understand players, coming to you, what they're having to say about where they've been before, I think that's a missed opportunity. So to see that, the openness to new information, and the wanting to reach people where they are. I think that's a great new feature in golf instruction and in golf, because golf has traditionally been traditional. It's been very resistant to change and doing things differently. And just look at Bryson and how Bryson DeChambeau has approached his career, and the willingness that he has to say, yes, people have been doing this forever. I'm going to gain 40 pounds and try to smash it. I'm going to, he's basically deconstructed every part of being a tour player and playing golf and said, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to get evidence and try to do it a different way. And people, just think of the rage that created in the sort of traditional golf community. It's now taken 6, 7, 8 years for people to finally come around and say, oh, well, this actually might be cool. And I think that same attitude is starting to freshen golf instruction, where it doesn't have to be a certain way. We don't have to wear tucked in shirts and do this with long pants on at a club where 97% of the people can't come in the gates. I think all those things are great developments, and the ability to look at your phone on a plane ride. I posted my exit post on Twitter from that I was finished at Golf Digest. I was on a plane going to Copenhagen, Denmark, and the ability to do that from the plane and have people around the world say nice things about the work we did, and to then cruise over and watch. You could peer into a lesson that a coach was having in real time with one of his tour players. The ability to do that, everyone talks about how great it was that Ben Hogan dug it out of the dirt. If Ben Hogan could have watched a great coach give another player a lesson in 1958, he would have done it. He would have taken the opportunity that we have now. And there's growing pains about how to sort it out, but having that information is an amazing thing.
I think as we wrap, one of the coolest things I've done, and it's been blown away by the response, is been doing YouTube live lessons, just filming during a lesson and watching. Like we did one, Colby and I did one, and we had like 8,000 people, which in the scheme of YouTube's not a lot, but for us, that was a lot of people to throw it out there and do that. Like people love watching it. It's an inside, an inside the ropes look, and and I think as long as you're authentic and it's like they see like it's a real lesson, it isn't a stage production. I think it's powerful stuff.
We've also become super jaded about how big 8,000 or 10,000 people watching something is. I can promise you that if you found a 10,000 seat arena in your town and went and gave a lesson on a stage in front of 10,000 people, I
hadn't looked at it that way.
It's a lot of people. It's there's rock bands that have sold millions of records that don't fill 10,000 seat arenas in a given.
I bet we could get 10,000 people to watch Maggie May.
It depends on if you classify it as classic rock or what is it, soft rock.
That's classic rock. I mean, that's the perfect place. Then I'm going to my grave arguing this one.
You're going to go to your grave losing. So
I saw on Instagram a video popped up of Rod Stewart singing Maggie May a couple weeks ago, and I almost sent it to you, but you were on vacation. I didn't want to. Hey,
I
Matt,
appreciate you not disturbing me.
thanks so much for all the help over the years and the friendship. That's obviously continued. We're going to do some fun stuff together. Best of luck with all the stuff. Thanks for reminiscing. And we're going to pick your brain and have you back on here soon.
You bet. Anytime.